In the criminal underworld, betrayal is the ultimate sin. Once you're marked as a traitor, there is no going back. Stay with me until the end, because you are about to uncover 7 shocking stories of gangsters betrayed by their own men. In the Mafia, life is cheap, but betrayal comes at a deadly price. Jimmy Burke and Henry Hill, the good fellas. What if the man who made you was the same man who might kill you? That was the terrifying reality Henry Hill faced in the bloody aftermath of the most legendary heist in American history. James Burke, Jimmy the Gent, wasn't just a mobster, he was a myth. He tipped the guys he robbed while planning murders and ruled the streets with charm and fear. Henry Hill, a young Lucchese associate, was practically raised under Burke's wing. Together they pulled off the 1978 Lufthansa heist, stealing $5.8 million in cash from JFK Airport, the largest cash robbery in American history at the time. It was the perfect crime, or so they thought. Not long after the heist, suspicion and paranoia crept in. Crew members connected to Lufthansa started turning up debt. Henry Hill watched this bloodbath and grew uneasy. By 1980, Henry was arrested on drug trafficking charges. Facing decades in prison and worried that Jimmy Burke was planning to whack everyone involved in the heist, Henry felt a tightening noose, and Hill chose survival. He flipped by becoming an FBI informant, testifying in court and spilling Lucchese family secrets. His testimony helped put dozens of mobsters behind bars, including his old boss Paul Vario and his once loyal friend Jimmy Burke. Burke, the mastermind of Lufthansa, was convicted and sent to prison for murder and racketeering. He died behind bars of cancer in the 90s. Hill and his family were given new identities, but he lived in fear of Mafia retribution for years. In the end, betrayal kept Henry alive. He escaped the mob's wrath only to die decades later of natural causes. King Von, betrayed by his own circle. King Von, a rising king, whose life was cut short not just by enemies, but by the silence and failure of his own circle. On November 6, 2020, King Von stepped out of Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. He had his crew with him and no fear in his heart. But when he saw an old rival, an affiliate of Quando Ronda Von, rushed in quickly, a brawl erupted between Von's guys and the other group. Von thought his friends had his back, but in the chaos, the street fight turned into a shooting. Someone from the other side fired the shots multiple times that mortally wounded King Vo. His crew rushed him to the hospital, but he died that same night, just 26 years old.
According to GBI, rapper King Von and his group were at Opium nightclub before making their way here to Monaco Hookah Lounge, then to the parking lot where chaos ensued.
It hurt us. It hurt us a lot. I cried. Some of my friends cried. He had a big influence on us, a really big influence.
26-year-old Devon Bennett, also known as rapper King Von.
He won't be back on the streets, he old. Everyone that he loved, they gon' be gone.
Shot and killed after a deadly fight erupted in front of Monaco Hookah Lounge.
At first, it looked like a shootout gone wrong, but deeper questions followed. Why did Von's crew let him walk straight into danger? Where was the security? Rumors exploded as people on the streets and online platforms like Reddit began to believe the unthinkable, that someone in Von's own camp tipped off the other side. Some claimed he was set up, others blamed his friends for standing down when it mattered most. Even his sister faced accusations she had to publicly deny. Ironically, King Von often rapped about loyalty and betrayal in his music. In a song called Why He Told, which that released just months before his death, his lyrics mirrored his life. Tommy DeSimone, lured to his death by his own. In the world of the Mafia, Tommy DeSimone wasn't just reckless, he was a problem. Back in the late 1960s and 70s, Tommy was an associate in Lucchese Capo Fall Vario's crew, the same gang as Henry Hill and Jimmy Burke. In 1970, in a drunken rage, he did the unthinkable. He beat and murdered Billy Batts, a made man in the Gambino family. That act alone sealed his fate, but instead of turning him in, Vario and Jimmy Burke helped cover it up. They hid the dead body, stayed silent, and kept Tommy close. And after pulling off the massive Lufthansa heist in 1978, Tommy thought it was finally his time to shine. He believed he was about to be made man. He was wrong. By 1979, the Gambinos wanted blood. The pressure was on. To protect themselves, Vario handed Tommy over. He told the Gambinos who killed Batts, when and how. Tommy had no idea he'd been marked. On a cold day in January 1979, Tommy DeSimone thought he was headed to a ceremony to become a made man. Instead, he walked into a death trap. There was no ceremony. Tommy was executed on the spot with a gunshot to the head. His body was never found. He simply vanished. The men he trusted, Vario and Burke, signed off on his execution without flinching. Tommy broke the Mafia code, and the Mafia broke him. MS-13 informants, when the gang turns on itself. Not all betrayals in gangland are personal. Some are institutional, where an entire gang is brought down by insiders turned informants. One of the most dramatic examples comes from the brutal Central American street gang, MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha. In San Francisco, Roberto Zorro Acosta became an undercover informant in a violent MS-13 clique known as the 20th Street Gang. For 4 years, he wore a wire, lived among killers, and passed intel to the FBI. His risky mission and betrayal eventually led to the takedown, arrests, and convictions of 37 MS-13 members. He survived only because his cover was held secret. But for Brenda Smiley Paz, her decision to help law enforcement and betrayal became her death sentence. Brenda was just 17 when she joined MS-13, but after witnessing horrific violence, she chose to walk away and became an FBI federal informant. Her decision came at a deadly cost. When the gang found out, they issued a green light straight a death sentence. In July 2003, 4 months pregnant, Brenda was invited to a gang meeting by people she trusted, including her boyfriend Oscar Grande and fellow member Ismael Cisneros. But it was a trap. When she realized what was happening, it was too late. Then, together, they stabbed her 13 times and left her body by the river. And in El Salvador, Miguel Angel Tabar, known as El Niño de Hollywood, was one of MS-13's deadliest assassins until he flipped. He helped put dozens behind bars, but no protection could save him. In 2014, gunmen found him on a rural road and executed him, just as the gang had promised. These stories all end the same way: blood, betrayal, and silence. Because in these worlds, once you break the code, there's no mercy. Betrayal isn't unique to the Mafia or street gangs. It's a universal threat in every criminal underworld. In the Mafia, they live by omerta, the code of silence. Under omerta, if you ratted, you signed your own death warrant. From the Mafia's cold executions to cartel bloodbaths, loyalty is sacred until it's broken. A chilling example is the murder of Nicholas Morello during the Mafia Camorra War in 1916. Morello was lured into a trap by rival gang leaders under the trap of peace negotiations, and was executed alongside Charles Ubriaco. Street gangs like the Bloods Crips or Latin Kings offer brotherhood, but betrayal brings swift and brutal consequences. In 2015, Gary Hutch, a member of the Hutch crime syndicate, was shot dead in Marbella, Spain, and this murder reportedly stemmed from suspicions that Hutch was an informant for Spanish police. And the Mexican cartels take betrayal to a brutal level. They don't just kill traitors, they turn their deaths into terrifying messages. Snitches are often beheaded, burned, or dissolved in acid, and their families can be targeted too. In 2018, that same kind of ruthless violence reached the US when an MS-13 member in New Bedford, Massachusetts, was suspected of working with law enforcement. Acting on orders from El Salvador's gang leaders, his own crew tortured, dismembered, and buried him in the woods. Despite their differences, all these criminal groups share one belief: betrayal is the ultimate sin. So, all stories beg the same question: why do gangsters betray each other at all? Drop your thoughts below. The answers actually lie in the psychology of loyalty within criminal groups. What really holds crews together is fear. Fear of being killed if you flip, and gangsters preach brotherhood. But behind the scenes, it's paranoia, greed, betrayal, and survival. The second loyalty becomes dangerous, many turn on their own. And cops know this, and they use it by offering gangster protection, a lighter sentence, or a new identity. And inside gangs, trust dies fast, money goes missing, egos clash, and leaders backstab their own men. In the end, most so-called loyalty in crime is just fear wearing a mask, and when that mask slips, blood follows. Thanks for watching. Until the next chapter in the Outlaw Book.